Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Kuwait Oil Company, I'd like to welcome you all to our online meeting today. Under the patronage of Kuwait Oil Company DCO, Mr. Badr Al-Attar, I warmly welcome you all to the first Harvard annual meeting for Harvard alumni in Kuwait. As part of KOC's social responsibility towards developing knowledge and strengthening the bond among Kuwait's Harvard graduates. What you're seeing right now are slides from Sumaya that we kindly encourage you to participate since we're starting and we're going to be discussing later on. Thank you, Sumaya. Now we can start the event today. We now kindly invite Mr. Badr Al-Attar for the welcoming statement in this occasion.
Good afternoon and welcome to our first annual KOC Harvard Hub hosting of Kuwait's Harvard Club. Kuwait Oil Company has recently celebrated the 85th anniversary of being granted oil concession rights in the country under the agreement signed by the late Emir Sheikh Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Ahmed Al-Sabah. While our event would be greatly enhanced had we this meeting face-to-face, actually we had planned this event to be joined in person in March at Ahmed Al-Jaber, an oil and gas exhibition center in Ahmedi. However, as we all know, COVID-19 took the whole world by surprise. We as Harvard's alumni need to be resilient and apply the principles we learned at Harvard by staying agile, flexible, and continue to push the boundaries. Thus, we have moved forward with hosting this event virtually. We are honored to have you with us today. Our theme this afternoon is From an Alumni to Another. Here is my life journey. On your behalf, I would like to welcome and thank our distinguished guest and President of Kuwait's Harvard Club, Sheikh Lieutenant Colonel Sabah Mohammed Al-Sabah, for joining us in this event. Lieutenant Colonel Sabah holds a Master's in Public Administration from Harvard University John F. Kennedy School of Government. He is the first GCC graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point, as well as Master's in Military Science degree from the Joint Command and Staff College. Furthermore, I would like to welcome and thank our panelists for taking the time to join us this afternoon in an event that we will certainly enjoy. As we start, I would like to go over some statistics about Harvard Alumni Club as per Harvard's records. There are 235 alumni in Kuwait, out of which there are 175 alumni of Harvard Business School, who have graduated from 12 different programs. These professional graduates come from various sectors in Kuwait, including banking, services, private sector, and oil and gas industry. KOC's graduates from the Advanced Management Program, the General Management Program, and the Program for Leadership Development represent approximately 27% of the whole Kuwait Harvard Business School alumni, registering 47 graduates so far and counting. KOC has greatly benefited from the contribution of these graduates from the different Harvard programs. They have been provided with the required tools to demonstrate exemplary leadership and amazing innovation to support the implementation of a sustainable growth strategy. We are living an era of increasing challenges in many aspects: leadership, management, technical, and environmental. The only way to overcome such challenges is to continue investing in our people, to get them better prepared for the uncertainties of the future, and to make the human factor a decisive one for success. The participation of our staff in the different programs offered by Harvard Business School is a key factor for our current and future success. Upon their return to Kuwait, they have found the required network support to have learned skills put to work. This event aims to build the Harvard Graduates Network in Kuwait, to share our different experiences so we can become ourselves in a dynamic factor that contributes to the improvement of our communities. We expect to hold this meeting every year from now on. In addition to the benefits stated in the attached event program, hosting such initiative will sustain the Harvard's investment made by KOC in our human capital through creating an active link between KOC Harvard's hub and Kuwait's Harvard Club, which will strengthen the collaboration channel through alumni's networking and exchanging of knowledge. That's in addition to fulfilling KOC's social responsibility paid towards our society by hosting its Harvard alumni and promoting KOC's brand in emphasizing the importance of the national and local human factor. While the threat of COVID-19 is still looming, we pray to Allah that you and your loved ones stay safe and healthy. We welcome you once again among your peers, colleagues, and friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Badr, for the speech, and it's good to know that this is the first and not the last Harvard annual meeting, and it's good to know, and we hope everyone joins us as well next year in better times. Moving on to the Kuwait Harvard Club Talk, may we now kindly ask Lieutenant Colonel Sabah al-Sabah, President of the Harvard Club Talk, for the speech.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm very happy to be speaking with you, this remarkable group of Harvard alumni at KOC. I trust you have all been staying positive, but testing negative, inshallah, in this new era. When I was at Harvard, I was told that what didn't kill you made you stronger. Let's hope that does not just refer to individuals doing physical exercise, but also to societies confronting US presidential election cycles and pandemics. In fact, while we are all transfixed by the US elections, let's not forget that Kuwait's elections are coming up next month. Voting, as Thomas Paine once said, is the right upon which all others depend. And ultimately, this is true whether you are in the US or in Kuwait. The success of Kuwait depends not just on elections, but the fortitude and quality of people in Kuwait. Succeeding as a country would not be possible without networks like that of the KOC one present. They are a source of quality people, of camaraderie, of policy ideas, and hopefully of idealism for the future of our beloved country. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. That was a line from the anthropologist Margaret Mead, but actually, we don't need Margaret Mead to tell us this. We in Kuwait instinctively know it to be true. In the previous generation, a small group of committed people changed Kuwait and changed the world for the better. I think of my father's experience, which may recognize many of you from your fathers or grandfathers. In his lifetime, my father traveled through time. His journey from Salmiya Elementary School to the halls of the most prestigious universities like this one, like Harvard, was in every sense of the word an odyssey, usually undertaken through decades and multiple generations. It was a saga, the building of a nation, the fighting of wars, the search for knowledge, all compressed in one single life. Many of you will remember in vivid detail the invasion of Kuwait and of our collective trauma of that experience. The news broadcasts around the invasion were my first real memory. I was a young boy, and even then I knew that this experience was not typical for the average kid my age. Later on, I realized that this watershed moment for our country was also the cornerstone of my formative experience, the reference point that would determine much of my thinking around security, around politics, and even human character. I mention this because it was the way my father handled that crisis that left a mark on me. He dealt with the extraordinary pressure, effectively the threat of the loss of his country, intelligently, calmly, and with resolve. My father, and many of his generation in Kuwait, began as an ordinary man and ended up practicing, there's no other word for it, extraordinary heroism in the face of extraordinary times. Today, we are again faced with a threat. Kuwait faces no physical invasion. There are no barbarians at the gate. But in a way, we are being invaded from the inside. The barbarian is corruption. Like the invasion of 1990, it threatens the state and its ability to function. As in 1990, the challenge is existential. Left unchecked, it will ultimately erode the ability of our country to thrive in the long run. Corruption is many things, but it is a general sense of people breaking norms and laws for their own benefit, and a contagious sense of inefficiency and negligence. It is public loss and private gain. Wenwen Ang, an academic who focuses on Chinese political economy, says the discussion of corruption in the West is too simplistic. She talks about the 4 types of corruption: petty theft, grand theft, speed money, and access money. All of these are bad, but not all of them are as bad as the other. She says that the primary form of corruption in China is access money, which is less bad because it is about getting things done quickly. Everywhere has all 4 types of corruption, but I worry that here the tendency is not towards getting things done more quickly, but towards neglect and slowing things down. Ultimately, we have to fix all of these types of corruption. So how will we do it? Think of the actual invasion in 1990. Even when everything seems broken, things can be repaired and made better. And it begins with a small group of people taking the initiative and choosing to lead and take responsibility. Some of those people are already in this room, or this Zoom, I should say. There's a proverb that says, "We have not inherited this land from our forebears. We have borrowed it from our children." In other words, we study the past so it can guide us into the future and inspire us to do better. Just like in 1990, today's challenge demands extraordinary capabilities from ordinary people. The good news is that we did it once and we can do it again. Make no mistake, preparing Kuwait for the future is more urgent than ever. The world is changing. Globalization, as practiced, is retreating and becoming more regionalized. The international system is being challenged by the rise of a second superpower. Technology is undermining the ability to create good, full-time jobs and concentrating power in a small number of companies and countries. As you already know, being the energy experts you are, the energy landscape is being transformed. There is a crisis of authority in many countries in our neighborhood and beyond. We have the rise of new ideologies. COVID-19 has changed nothing, but accelerated everything. In Professor Nicholas Christakis' new book, he suggests that the things will not go back to normal until 2024, maybe later. That means that some kind of disruption is here to stay. 90 years ago, the Italian thinker Antonio Gramsci wrote, "The old world is dying, and the new world has not yet been born." Gramsci was talking at the end of the 1920s, where the age of borderless travel, imperial administration, and growing economic globalization that began in 1870 was coming to an end. And yet, the new world of large states with high public spending was still a distant prospect. In 2020, we are in a similar world today. We know the old way of doing things has gone. Maybe forever, but we are not sure how to find our way in the new world, or indeed what this new world looks like. The changes are in many ways most acute in energy. The age of hydrocarbons is giving way to a world of low carbon, or even in some cases, no carbon technologies. I don't need to tell you the statistics. This year, the energy sector of the S&P 500 index shrank to just 2% of the overall index, down from 13% 10 years ago. There's a substantial energy revolution underway. Some experts like Vaclav Smil think it'll take 25 to 35 years before clean energy goes to 25% of total consumption, from under 5% today. Others think it'll be sooner. In that world, there will be abundant oil, and it even still be a cornerstone for activities like aviation or trucking, if not replaced by hydrogen. But even if there's a spike in the short term, ultimately the price of oil will fall. As we know, the Stone Age did not end for a lack of stone. Our biggest customers are already pushing ahead. In Germany, solar panels have already created tens of thousands of new jobs inside the country. In the US today, there are already twice as many jobs in solar than in coal. Xi Jinping just announced that the UN in China is pursuing a carbon neutrality by 2060. Success creates its own momentum and its own interest groups, which will push for further change. Renewable energy development will not slow, it'll snowball. Energy companies and others are investing in technologies like AI, which will further speed up this change. At financial firms, there is pressure not just to divest from firms associated with fossil fuels, but to reinvest these proceeds in new technologies. Meanwhile, we know from human history that there is a trend towards using fewer and fewer materials. The first aluminum can for soft drinks was 5 times heavier than the current one today. It's been improved repeatedly using simulations and computers. Think of your iPhone. In 1991, an electronics store would have sold you a camera, a phone, a Walkman, an answering machine, and now all of that is in your pocket. US consumption of timber, aluminum, phosphate, potash, and paper have peaked, not in per capita terms, but in absolute terms. It has peaked and will shrink. Energy will not be different. We should therefore expect pressures on the oil market to grow over time. Where does this leave us in Kuwait? The short answer is that it is a profound challenge to our way of doing business. Every reform initiative in world history has been greeted with skepticism. Everyone says it can't be done, it won't work, and then it does. Just like in 1990. Everyone said it would be the end of us, but it wasn't. At Harvard, our education was about critical thinking, which is about questioning the grand narratives. Our education makes us deconstruct, but construction is also important. In fact, at moments when crucial changes need to happen, we need to be optimistic and bold. And that is ultimately what I think will come from people in this KOC network. In fact, that is also the role of the Harvard Club of Kuwait, to champion good ideas and good people, and to bring the best of the world to Kuwait and the best of Kuwait to the world. I hope you will join me in contributing to this network, your network, in the coming months and years. We know the Stone Age did not end for a lack of stone, but the Stone Age did end. It is worth remembering that the ancient civilizations of the Middle East were also the first to enter the Bronze Age. There's a lot we can do if we work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel Sabah, for this remarkable and well speech. We'll move on. Next, for the, I kindly ask Mr. Bashar Al-Khashti, Team Leader Talent Management, for the KOC Investment in Sharpening Talents presentation regarding Harvard programs within KOC.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to share the stage with you guys. It's a true honor, and thank you all for being here and sharing your knowledge. Throughout this brief presentation, I'll just walk you through the KOC's talent management journey. Since the beginning of time, KOC has always been keen on developing its human capital. We've always realized that looking after the human capital is the only way to thrive as a company. And it's always been this way. Basically, we build our talent management around a holistic approach. Looking after our talent starts from planning for recruiting our employees and going through the recruitment process and developing our people and making sure that they're engaged and retained. This is a key strategic objective within the company, and that's what we look after. KOC as a company is an asset-based company. It relies on assets and it leverages its expertise not only in operation but also in the development of its staff. We utilize the expertise of our employees to develop the following generations using various learning tools. It's not a secret that the development as an industry has evolved significantly. And looking back at the conventional ways of delivering training and development has changed drastically. I mean, from just conventional classroom work to using alternative learning tools that help in enhancing the learning process. And of course, we at KOC have made sure that we go hand in hand with the evolution of the corporate learning trends. So in order to nurture our talent, even though we're emphasizing the technical development, we had to nurture our talented employees, to nurture the way they lead the company into the future. We have adopted a series of learning competency upon which their development has been built. We have targeted different segments. We do look after the newly recruited employees. We also have a scheme for our aspiring leaders in addition to the leaders who are leading the company right now. And that's where Harvard Development Program has come. And it's a good opportunity for us to tell you the story behind it and how it came about. Back in 2011, we have introduced Harvard Development Program in collaboration with the Harvard Executive Education. And the idea is that we needed to prepare a pool of talent to lead the company into the future. So basically, to lead the company, it's not only technicality, even though it's extremely important, but we need to develop and hone their development skills or their leadership skills as well. And that's where Harvard Development Program has come about. We have introduced a detailed filtration mechanism to make sure that we are selecting the best representatives of the company. All KOC's representatives have, or employees who have gone through the programs, have gone through a very detailed selection process that has been concluded by an interview with Harvard representative. So everyone you know from KOC have been interviewed and selected by Harvard themselves. Throughout the years, as you can see here, we, as I said earlier, started at 2011 where we introduced the PLD program, and subsequently we have introduced the GMP and the NP programs, and since then we've been sending our elites to join this prestigious school and come back with ideas and projects to enhance the company. And as Mr. Badr Attar mentioned, we've been reaping the benefits without a doubt of sending our elites to Harvard programs. Well, Corona has hit, and of course, everything got disrupted, including training. We got used to a certain ways of doing things, and now with Corona, things have been limited dramatically. Of course, we didn't stay still. We have reshaped our strategy to cope with the current situation. And it's good that the infrastructure of the development function in the company is strong, and we built on it to keep going. One of them was our association with Harvard Business Publishing. We have an online tool that we've utilized to develop or to continue the development of our talent using various learning schemes. Harvard Hub was another resource that we've tapped into. As a matter of fact, this event wouldn't have come about without the contribution of a very special group of Harvard alumni through the Harvard Hub initiative. This initiative is basically an open innovation outlet where we get together, we think together, we introduce ideas together, and one of them was this event. And this is an opportunity, as a matter of fact, to thank each and every one for making this event happen. Coaching and mentoring is becoming really crucial nowadays within the company. We have our own scheme. We have introduced our own booklet on how to do mentoring in the company. And we have also automated the mentoring process, so it can be done entirely online, done and captured online. Last but not least, microlearning has been used to develop our employees as well. We have various tools that we have leveraged to utilize. This includes the videos, the quick videos that we've been distributing among our talented employees, in addition to book summaries and other articles that we have shared and benefited from. This is a brief introduction of what we do here in the company. And once again, I thank everyone for being here. We have been working hard to continuously improve the learning process for our employees and for our leader, and we hope we continue to lead the company and the nation into the future with the help of our leaders and our talented employees. With that, I'll leave you and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bashar, for the presentation. Moving on, next is Sumaya Al-Jassim, founder and managing director of Creative Confidence Consulting and Training Company. We frequently collaborate with Sumaya and KOC. And Sumaya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Abdullah. I'm delighted to be here, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank KOC for their invitation. My segment today will focus on solving problems and personal styles when it comes to problem solving. When I heard the comments were being made about the previous speakers, I felt that really that makes the content even much more relevant for what we are here doing today. So the focus of my segment is about helping the participants develop an awareness about their problem-solving skills, and that can help them boost their capacity to address challenges as teams or even individually. This is based on their foresight thinking style assessment, and it has a lot of insights that you could use to help you improve your problem-solving skills. People have always found this useful across sectors, from banking to the energy sector and education. However, in the context of the current situation we're facing today, these new challenges make it really more important to be aware of what I'm going to talk about in both our personal and professional lives. So before I get started into my presentation, I want to make this a little bit interactive, and I think most of you have signed up already. You see that there is a code, a barcode here that you can scan. That's going to take you to Menti. That's a website where you will add your votes and give us your feedback as we go forward. If you have not done that yet, please use your mobiles, scan the code, and you can follow through with us. You only need to do that just once. Now, I would like to put a first question for the group before I get into my detail of the segment, which is, where do you tend to be when you do your best thinking? That is, when you gain clarity on problems, when you come up with ideas, formulate solutions. Where do you usually be, in what context? And so I'll go to Menti and I'll give you, oh, you already got a head start. Let's see where people get their most ideas. We'll give you 20 seconds to see how where do people do their best thinking. I'm not surprised as I see these results coming in, because actually we got these recommendations of places based on many workshops that we did, and we get people to share their ideas where they do their best thinking. Okay, give it a few more seconds. What is interesting, as you can see, that most people do their best thinking when they're not in the office alone. In most circumstances, they do that when they're alone. And that's not surprising, actually, because people do their best thinking when their minds can wander, when they can connect ideas, when they can explore the different scenarios. And so this context doesn't come on demand, and when we want to bring our best thinking, we don't necessarily can do that on demand usually. So when we think, for example, in the context of a team, where we have a group of people working together, they're having their project team, they're in a meeting, they're trying to get things done, and you might have noticed that someone is trying to finish and wrap things up and get things moving. Another person might say, wait, I have questions. We need to discuss these questions. They want to gain clarity. A third person is maybe suggesting a number of different ideas to explore for the situation. And a fourth person wants to wait, slow down, and think about it. I actually frequently see these dynamics within teams, and they create conflict. They create frustration amongst people, because although they're working towards the same goal, people tend to have different styles of approaching problem solving, and that makes it challenging when you come to the team. And so before I get into more details, I wanted to see in the group, reflecting in the context where each of you were working in projects and in teams, what kind of annoying? So we're going to go back, and our question will be, when working in a team, what do you find it most annoying? So you can start by saying, I find it most annoying when people ask too many questions or suggest many ideas, take too much time to make a decision, or rush to get things done. So I'll give it a few seconds to see what the group preferences is and what do you find most difficult to work with. Okay, so it seems like so far, people who like to take their time, they're the ones who are perceived to be the most difficult or annoying to work with. We'll give it 5 more seconds. Okay, now these dynamics come in from the different personalities and how we approach problem solving. And I'd like to take a step back a little bit and give you just the outline of creative problem solving, because we are always facing challenges that require us to think differently. The current situation has been challenging us in every single way, professionally and personally, to think differently and address these challenges. So some of you might have came across this at Harvard at some point. The creative problem solving is a universal process where people use it to solve challenges, and in most cases, we use that without being fully aware of the process. We clarify the challenge, we understand, ask questions, come up with ideas, make choices, and move forward for implementation. Now that's pretty straightforward. Now, when it comes this becomes interesting when you look at the research that's been done that indicated we as humans, as we go through these 4 steps, each of the 4 steps requires different thinking styles, different mental skills that we need to do as we go through the 4 phases. Now, in these differences, we as humans tend to have preferences towards certain aspects of the process and low preferences for others. That means that we enjoy certain aspects and we really do not find others comfortable. And that preference that we have is evident in the energy that we have. If we like a phase, if we like, for example, coming up with ideas, we're very comfortable in that phase. We can come up with ideas, we can spend a lot of time. But if we're in a phase where we're not comfortable, it doesn't feel right. And to give you an illustration of that, this is going to be, if you have a pen and paper next to you, you can join in on this activity. If I ask you right now to take a second and just write your first name on that piece of paper, that's probably take you a second or 2 to do, because that's something very easy and you do it very naturally. But if I ask you to use your other hand to write your name, how would that feel? If you can try it out and you can see the difference. It probably feels more difficult, uncomfortable. You have to focus. It takes more time, it takes more attention and energy. That's because it's not your dominant hand. Your dominant hand makes it easy for you to do that task. Now, this is what the research has showed, that when we have problems and when we have challenges, we actually have a dominant way that we jump into and use to solve problems. And these 4 phases, they become so clear, which is when people clarify or ideate, develop or implement. These preferences come in, and when we're working in a team, the dynamic becomes challenging because each person is coming with their dominant style of thinking. So we'll break them down into 4. Clarifying is understanding the challenge. Ideating is about generating ideas. Developing is about making choices, improving solutions. And implementation, which is taking action. Each one of us has a certain preference between these 4 that becomes our default way of solving problems. Now, the Foresight team, they have developed an assessment which allows you to go into details about each of these profiles and measures where you have either high, low, or a neutral preference towards these 4 profiles. Now, before the end of my segment, I'm going to go back to the group and I'm going to ask everyone to vote on their preferred profile. I'm going to explain each of these profiles, but an important note is that there is no good or bad profile. All 4 profiles are needed, they're all relevant, and they all contribute to the problem-solving process. It's just that the dynamics of each person makes the mix different. And you might have one of the 4, but you can actually have multiple combinations. You could be, for example, high clarifier and a high implementer, or a high ideator and a high developer. So there is 15 different combinations where you could be. And towards the end of the slides, once I've explained these 4 profiles, you would reflect and choose which preferences you see. And that's going to give us a very initial understanding of where does the Harvard Club members in Kuwait, where does their preference go towards solving problems. And with that, I'd like to start with clarifiers. Clarifiers, they like to make things clear. So they are, for example, they're very detailed, focused, they're very neat, they're serious, and they're organized. If when looking into the context of work, for example, you'll find that clarifiers are really good at reviewing contracts and checking all the details. When editing a document, they can even spot typos such as, for example, double spaces within a field. So they're really good at spending time, and their energy, their creative energy, comes in when they're given an opportunity to clarify things. Now, what do clarifiers need to feel comfortable? What do they need to function well within a team? Clarifiers need sequence and order. They need to follow things through. They need to know the facts and the context. They want an understanding of a history of the problem, all the details. They need access to information. And most importantly, they need space to ask questions. If you don't allow clarifiers to ask questions, they'll feel very frustrated. They don't like not knowing, and they really appreciate certainty. So to give them comfort, give them the chance and the space to have their questions asked and addressed. Now, how could clarifiers possibly annoy other people? Because these are team dynamics, and as we saw in the beginning, we have some preferences and we find others annoying, especially if they are the opposite preference of what we are. So, for example, when a clarifier is telling a story, they may take a long time in providing details. When they are, for example, preparing a presentation, they'll take a long time in, they'll try to put a lot of details into the slide. So they might annoy other people by asking too many questions, or by pointing out obstacles, because they really have a skill to be able to look at details and look at things in a more clear way. So they point out obstacles. They overload people with information because they think information is important, so they may overload people with information. And sometimes they're perceived as being too realistic and maybe sometimes pessimists because they are really trying to get a clear view, and sometimes the situation does not provide that. Moving on from clarifiers to ideators. Ideators, they tend to like to look big. So their personalities are usually playful, imaginative, social, flexible, adventurous. They really love and excel at using their imagination to explore opportunities. For example, if you are involving an ideator in preparing a company's event, or like the event we have here, if you have a bunch of ideators on the team, you will find them seeking wild ideas and thinking broadly and thinking big about the possibilities that they could have. Ideators, in order to feel comfortable, what do they need in order to flourish? They need room to be playful, to experiment with their ideas. They need constant stimulation to get them excited. They like variety and change. They don't like to keep things as is. And they need to see the big picture. I'm actually a high ideator, and I frequently just move the furniture around in the house just to feel that it's different. It might not make sense logistically, but just a sense of change and difference gets me excited and gets my energy. Now, how can ideators annoy other people? Well, because ideators have a lot of ideas, they tend to draw attention to themselves because they want to be heard. They need their ideas to be heard. And if they start sharing an idea with other people and people are not getting their ideas, they start expressing their frustration. They feel uncomfortable. Why aren't they getting my idea? They also annoy people by sometimes offering ideas that are way off the wall and very unrealistic. And I think they overlook details. In an effort to look at the big picture, they miss out the details. And I think most importantly, they annoy people by not sticking to one idea. So if you ask an ideator, where would you like to travel? They're going to give you a bunch of places, but they keep changing their minds about what they can do or where can they go. Now, moving on to developers. Developers, as you can see from this visual, they love to get things clear and organized. So developers tend to be reflective, careful, patient. They take their time to make things perfect. They like to think and reflect and evaluate options. They're very careful about making decisions, and they really hate to be rushed. So for a developer to feel comfortable, what do they need? They need time. They need time to consider and evaluate options. They need time to craft solutions and develop their ideas. They need time to improve their work and develop it. The worst thing you could do for a developer is ask them to rush and limit the time they have. Let's take an example. If a developer is interested in buying a car, okay, he or she would be going through the dealers, checking all the possible dealers for that category of car, comparing options, asking other people, and spending a long time evaluating and making sure they make the right decision. Once they make a decision and given the right time, they're going to be very comfortable with that. But the worst thing you could do is rush them, because that puts them outside their comfort zone. They need time to reflect. Now, what makes developers annoying for other people? They might be perceived as bardin, very slow, okay? Because, as we say, مترددين, they're not sure if they're going to do it or not. So they might be perceived as being too critical. In an effort to make things perfect, they find flaws in other people's ideas. You share something and they're like, I'm not sure, it has these issues. They're hard to please because they want to make things perfect. They also might get locked into one approach of thinking because that's the way they used to think. So they might get into one approach. And I think the biggest pain has been, and this showed in the poll, is that developers take too much time to make a decision. So that's the watch out for developers. The final profile that I'd like to present is implementers. Implementers, they love to take action. So you could use the Nike approach that they have, just do it. They really want to get things done. They thrive on getting things done. So let's look at their profile. Implementers like to see things happen. They like to give structure to ideas. They love to see ideas becoming a reality. And they focus on solutions that are practical, things that they can do. So implementers tend to be persistent, decisive, determined, assertive, action-oriented, and they leap into action at times very quickly. In Kuwaiti, we could classify implementers as harjin, because they like to get things done, and you frequently hear them saying, "Yalla, khan khalas," and in meetings you'd hear them saying, "What is the next step? Let's get moving." And so, for implementers to feel comfortable, okay, what they need to feel that others are moving as quickly as they are. They get frustrated when they feel that there is slowness and delay. If they share ideas or, for example, send an email, they expect to have a quick response. And they really love to have a sense of control that allows them to drive things forward. So implementers tend to be good at following up on tasks. So they love the feeling of getting things done. Now, how could they possibly annoy other people? Well, because in an attempt to rush things, they might be perceived as being too pushy or overselling their ideas. If they're excited about something and they have a big idea, they push people towards that. And if they feel others are not moving as quickly, they start expressing their frustrations or يتحلطمون. So people find them مثلا كلها مستعجلين نبي نخلص. Sometimes people want to slow down, and so these kind of actions of implementers might be challenging for others. Now, I've briefly explained the 4 types of preferences, and what I would like you to do is go back to Menti, and we're very curious to see which preferences do you think represents this group. Think of the high preferences only. What do you think you have a high tendency to be your creative problem solving styles, the style you like to address challenges, and you can choose up to 2 options if you think there are 2 options that are close to you. So with that, I will open it here and we'll see where does the group thinking in what direction. It's very interesting to see the dynamics, because this gives us an understanding that if we are, for example, working in a real team and we're tasked with a specific challenge, our approach to solving problems could be biased towards a certain kind of profile. Okay, so far the least is a developer's profile. That is frequent in organizations. And sometimes what I see is, for example, implementers are common in talent programs, because some organizations, for example, reward implementers. And when we have high clarifiers, it's another perspective where organizations look for people with high clarifying skills. So it's very interesting. We have a very interesting group. If we were working on a real team, my advice would be to just give the developers a voice, to make sure they have a chance to slow things down and reflect and make choices. Because this team can have high clarity, we can explore our ideas, but we rush towards developing and then towards implementation. We have an enormous force that loves to get things done. So this is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Now, just to wrap up my segment, why should you care about this? Okay, why should you care about these foresight profile preferences, and why should you think in terms of this awareness? Now, developing an awareness about these thinking styles actually is relevant to both your personal and professional lives. If you have kids, you can easily explore that profile and map it to the way the kids behave. Once you have that understanding, it allows you to grow respect for other people. You could have empathy towards them, and that allows you to create alignment with others and establish a common language. It allows you to leverage the diversity between the people and build better teams. It improves your performance and allows you to gain self-mastery, because that understanding of yourself, you can manage yourself better. And my final statement is that if you can think about what I shared with you as like having a lens that you could see people differently, and you see yourself, and you get a really more clarity into how you can boost the collaboration between the team. So I hope you found my segment useful, and that it can spark some opportunities for the Harvard alumni members to collaborate as a community and address our common challenges. Thank you very much, and I'll pass it to Abdullah.
All right, thank you very much, Sumaya. We hope everybody has enjoyed this interactive presentation. Moving on for the last segment we have for today, which is the panel session titled From Alumni to Another. Here's the short version of my life journey. It will be moderated by Mr. Qutayba Okasha, who will be also introducing our 3 guest panelists.
Thank you, Abdullah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. My name is Qutayba Okasha, and I'll be the moderator for this session. We are honored to welcome our guest panelists, Ms. Nadia Zabot, Mr. Imad Al-Ablani, and Mr. Santiago Lucero. Please post your questions through the Q&A panel. We will notify you when the Q&A panel is open. Please mention your question and name of the guest that you want us to answer your question. We'll do our best to answer all the questions during the time allocated. We apologize in advance if we could not answer your questions during the session. I will start to introduce our panelists. I'll start with Ms. Nadia Zabot. She is a senior planner with the Innovation and Technology Group at Kuwait Oil Company. She has over 18 years of rich experience in the areas of petroleum engineering and geosciences, having worked with exploration, field development, and drilling functions at KOC, Combining an impeccable academic and professional record, Ms. Nadia has been playing a key role in implementing various transformational initiatives, such as Kuwait International Petroleum Research Center, the Upstream Center of Excellence, Innovation Excellence, amongst others. She has also participated in various local and international conferences as a speaker, author, and panel chair. Ms. Nadia also previously chaired the Women in Geosciences and Engineering Special Interest Committee under the European Association of Geoscientists and Engineers. She is also a member of the Professional Women Network for Kuwait Petroleum Corporation and its subsidiaries. And most recently, she was elected as the Vice President of Programs and Schools for the Harvard Club of Kuwait. Ms. Nadia completed her bachelor and master degrees in petroleum geology from Kuwait University. She has a master in petroleum engineering from the University of Southern California and an MBA with a specialization in general and strategic management from Maastricht School of Management. She also completed the extended program of the leadership development from Harvard Business School back in 2014. Our second panelist is Mr. Imad Al-Ablani. He joins us from the National Bank of Kuwait. He worked there since 2003, where he started his career as manager, heading the resource development department. He then headed the HR operations and then deputized for the general manager of the group human resources. He has been officially appointed as head group human resources for the National Bank of Kuwait on a general manager level, reporting to the chief executive officer since October 2014. And before joining MBK, Mr. Imad has been appointed in several managerial roles at Kuwait University and QualityNet, amongst others. Mr. Imad is also an alumni for both Harvard Business School and the American University of Beirut. After completing the general management program at Harvard Business School and the executive MBA at the American University of Beirut. He holds a Bachelor of Art degree in Education Psychology from Kuwait University. Our third panelist is Mr. Santiago Lucero, who is the Deputy Chief Legal Officer at Al Ghanim Industries, one of the largest privately owned companies in the Gulf region. He graduated from Harvard Business School's General Management Program in 2019. Mr. Lucero, broad experience encompasses various areas of law related to cross-border practices, including corporate and commercial law, mergers and acquisitions, joint ventures, franchising, and international dispute resolution. He regularly advises all Al Ghanim Industries business units worldwide with respect to diverse legal matters, with a particular focus on strategic partnerships and overseas operations. Prior to joining Al Ghanim Industries in 2007, Mr. Lucero was an associate in a private international law firm in New York and Paris. He is duly qualified from New York and England and Wales, and holds a degree from the Paris Institute of Political Studies. He's also a graduate of the Erasmus College and the New York University School of Law. Mr. Lucero is fluent in English, Spanish, French, and has been working in knowledge of several other languages, including Arabic. We thank you all for being with us on this panel. The best way to start this session is by saying a few inspiring quotes. I believe that one of the best quotes that came to mind is from Lao Tzu, where he says, "A journey of 1,000 miles always begins with a single step." I don't think that there is another quote that can encapsulate the true setting of a journey. Another famous quote where we always see in the movies is the Oscar-winning movie Forrest Gump, portrayed by Tom Hanks. At the beginning of the movie, while he's waiting for the bus, he talks to a lady who's waiting also for the bus, and he mentions the quote, "Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get." And that is true, as our journey in life is full of adventures. We have our ups and downs, our good and bad moments, and those events are the ones that really move us towards achieving our goals and dreams. We also have seen successful stories in our era in time. We've seen Steve Jobs' success story, and we've seen the CEO of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. But both of their journeys did not complete without challenges and failures. And this is how they started their dreams. So to bring us back to our theme of the session, we would like to hear from our associates in the panel. Their stories for these memorables and memories that they have. We like to hear from them as being close family members, there are colleagues, there are co-workers, even our friends. So enough said from my side, and I'd like to hear the stories. We'll start with Ms. Nadia. Please take a moment and tell us about your journey. Tell us what inspired you to set your journey and how you managed to succeed.
Thank you, Qutayba, very much for this very nice introduction. Let me begin by thanking you all for joining this first annual meeting for Harvard Alumni in Kuwait. KOC, as mentioned by Bu Abrar and Bu Ibrahim, organized this meeting to build an active connection amongst all Harvard graduates based in Kuwait. This platform is envisioned to facilitate knowledge sharing and strengthen collaboration ties between the members. This will contribute, I believe, to the improvement of our broader communities and help build our national capabilities. I would specifically like to acknowledge and thank Mr. Badr Al-Attar, Deputy CEO, KOC Planning and Finance, also the event organizing committee, Sheikh Sabah Mohammed Sabah as well, Harvard Club President of Kuwait, and all my fellow panelists for taking the time to be with us and address this distinguished gathering. It is indeed a matter of pride to share with you my life journey and factors that helped shape and make me what I am today. The famous American businesswoman Estee Lauder, founder of the world-renowned cosmetic company, once said, "I did not get there by wishing for it or hoping for it, but by working for it." This closely echoes how I drew up my life journey and charted a path that seemed challenging at the onset. After my graduation from Kuwait University, I was thrilled to be joining Kuwait Oil Company, the upstream subsidiary of Kuwait Petroleum Corporation. Over the years, KOC has proactively supported its diverse workforce by providing access to a host of growth and development opportunities. Some of them was presented by Ibrahim in his previous speech. I was fortunate to be able to utilize many of these opportunities. As I quickly progressed through my initial years within the organization, I began to realize the enormity of challenges that lay ahead as a woman. Today, women represent just 22% employees in the oil and gas industry worldwide, according to a report by the World Petroleum Council, a significantly smaller share than found in almost any other industry. And there are far fewer women employees reaching senior management roles in the industry, as we all know. However, from the beginning, I wanted to be different. I set ambitious goals to myself to scale at work and beyond. I did not let myself be influenced by what was happening or done previously or by how others did it. I wanted to be the creator of my own destiny and be always motivated by hope and possibilities before me. For this, I needed to dare the difference. To dare would mean to take risks, to step out of my comfort zone, and let courage and motivation drive me each day. This would require me to open the doors and be ready to face challenges boldly. What helped and empowered me through this exciting journey are three factors, which I would like to briefly share with you today. Let me start with learning. I cannot emphasize enough the importance that continuous learning is and how it is the foundation in which everything else must be built. Continuous learning allows us to rise ourselves up and break down the barriers that hold us back from achieving what we can. In this journey of life, it is continuous learning that provides the nourishment and support to gain newer perspectives and confront the unknowns. In navigating today's competitive and fast-paced environment, learning is so much more critical. While working at KOC, I was able to successfully complete 3 master's degrees in technical and management disciplines. Subsequently, I was selected as a fast-track employee and was chosen to undertake the Advanced Leadership Development Program with Harvard Business School. Each of these learning experiences helped influence my perspectives and significantly shaped my career. And I believe that as all we face up to more demanding and complex challenges, we will need to continue strengthening our foundations and build new skills through learning. The second factor that I would like to share is unbalancing work-life priorities. Keeping up with the needs of an ever-changing environment brought about its own set of challenges. Specifically at home, competing demands and conflicting schedules from my different roles as a homemaker, as a mother, and as an employee required me to proactively assess and adjust priorities in order to be able to accommodate being both a winner at work and at home. Also, time and time again, we all have seen how women have made their mark in every field, stepping up beyond their traditional boundaries and turning out to be exceptional contributors. All of them had one thing in common: their undying passion to succeed. It is this passion to succeed that motivated me, both at home and work, to attune my work-life goals and priorities. The last factor that helped mold my life journey has been willingness to take on new challenges. It has been a privilege to have led and participated in some important transformational initiatives while at KOC. I helped establish networks of multidisciplinary experts under the Upstream Center of Excellence. These technical networks today boast participation of over 120 technical experts from all upstream companies to provide advisory services, knowledge sharing, and capability development. They help deliver tremendous business value in addressing technical challenges facing the upstream K companies. I was also able to play an instrumental role in establishing the Foundation for Kuwait International Petroleum Research Center, KIBRIC, envisioned to be a preeminent center for all the research and technology management activities in Kuwait. As part of this project, I supported in developing an integrated technology roadmap, in establishing the operating model and collaboration strategy, as well as in delivering HR and capability development efforts. Today, I am leading the implementation of the Innovation Excellence Initiative across K companies. Through this initiative, we are working to establish an innovation framework that will help build and drive an innovative culture across K companies. All of these unique experiences on organization impacting transformation projects have helped instill in me the confidence and courage to accept and take on newer opportunities and challenges. Let me conclude with some words from Nelson Mandela. He said, "There is no passion to be found playing small and settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. Everything I do stems from my passion and my desire to dare the difference. And I earnestly believe that continuous learning, balancing work-life experience and priorities, and willingness to take on new challenges will help each of us to fulfill our true potential and shape our life's journey to become successful, inshallah." Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nadia. That was very informative and encouraging. I'd like to build on that and move on to Mr. Imad. Can you tell us a story that focuses on the challenges that you faced and what has changed between the time that you worked on with your story compared with others in today's world?
Thank you and good evening to everybody. It's really a pleasure to be part of panelist and KOC event, the first annual Harvard meeting. To start with, the first challenge that I have, let's say, faced is that back in 1990, I've graduated from Kuwait University majoring in psychology. And you can imagine that you would like to receive your certificate and your country is invaded. To build up on that conversation, it will put you in a huge certainty, especially if you are already outside of Kuwait. So a lot of uncertainty. First of all, you have no proper news about your country, you have no proper news about your family, your future, and so on. Thank God, everything later on restored, and the right came back to us as all known by us. At that time, I've told myself I need to really build up something out of myself, and I need to be a productive part, to be really helpful for our country. And I joined at that time Kuwait University to look after the scholarship, which is the program that Kuwait University sent their master and PhD scholarship to grant them such an opportunity to come back as faculty members. To tell you the truth, the environment itself really at that time were fully enthusiastic to really restore things back as quick as we can. So I might be very lucky at that time to have a great mentor help me accelerate in my future and in my career. And after a while, I thought that there is a glass ceiling that I cannot cross in that organization. Hence, this is where I started to search for another opportunity in Kuwait. And it is very simple to me. When I applied to MBK, it was an anonymous job advertisement for a financial organization that would like to recruit a recruitment manager. And when I apply, the interview processes, how usually does it go? And I've managed to succeed or outperform 40 candidates for that position. The dilemma here is to switch on gears from public sector, or government sector, which is Kuwait University, to private sector. Here is the real challenge that I have faced. And actually, the first 3 years, it was a kind of nightmare for me because I was newly married and I need to adjust quickly with private sector, knowing that the private sector would admire only performance. So your safety belt, or let's say your passport to travel in that environment, it's your performance actually. So the long hours and stay late at office was one of the challenges. And actually I took it bit by bit. First of all, how would you build up your name? And this is one of the advice that my late father said to me: Imad, if you would like to be something, have the people trust, be transparent, be a genuine one. So you need to build up your name, your proper network, and how actually to be a trusted partner in HR within the let's say the smaller team, as well as in the other business line within MBK. This is one of the themes that I was concentrating. And actually, you need to let them believe in your capabilities and give you the opportunity to show and demonstrate what you can do. And I put for myself 3 actually major pillars, which is I have to be on the same distance with all and everybody in MBK. I need to be unbiased, actually. And I need to be fair to all. With that 3 pillars, actually, I managed to navigate to build solid network through MBK colleagues, as well as with other banking sector. And the question always will be, would that challenge change? Actually, the challenges will be built on. Such challenges will be always available, or let's say exist in your career, and you may gain or add on more challenges. So the next stage was, or something that also to inspire me in my career life, is how to offer a tangible value for a well-established organization. All of us, we know that National Bank of Kuwait is a well-established organization. And to be an individual that can contribute with a value to that organization, it's a real challenge. And you need to focus on your task, your targets, and your deliverables as well. And then definitely one of the other inspiration things that add on in my plate is how to offer an extraordinary contribution for MBK and to be part of the story of that successful organization. To tell you the truth, this is one of the things that keep me always restless, keep me awake to think how to bring something new to MBK, always. And so far, and thank God that I have managed to move on the classical way of looking to HR from being an implementer only to be a strategic partner. MBK, it's well known for the Kuwaiti market that it's one of the strongest school, actually. We believe in training, we believe in development, we believe in human factor that really ensure the success journey of MBK. And by the way, we've just celebrating the 68th anniversary of MBK. And that's all success story built through human factor and investing in people. Now, one of the, let's say, the success always comes from failure attempt. And I would like to share a failure experience that I have examined in MBK, and it was related to one of the big projects that we are bringing to MBK and change things drastically, and requires a huge effort in changing management. Just to put it in a short version of it, that project was let's say, dealt through a steerco, and all stakeholders were or members in that steerco. And you know how chaos might be that steerco toward achieving such a huge initiative to change the culture itself. The project was really heading toward a big failure, and then I paused that project and went immediately to the executive management and asked their support to, instead of running that big project through steerco committee, let's do it bit by bit and go with a stakeholder to another one and start to build allies instead of dealing with the whole, or deal with that project in a holistic way. And thank God we start to build up the allies from within, and we start to reduce that resistance that usually comes as an initial product of any changing initiative. And later on, we found out that this approach actually helped us to achieve the targets and also to change the approach towards such big project. So sometimes you need to think ahead before you start your projects. And maybe we took it in a way or the classical way of dealing with such project, and we did not think of the other, let's say, alternative. So from that failure, actually, we changed the failure to a success story, and that project was really approved and implemented during 2019. Just to give you another achievement that we've managed to do in MBK, the currently MBK Kuwait only, we are almost 3,000 staff. And let me give you good statistics numbers that 45% of our population are females. And we have 55 of that population male. At least 12 to 15% they are in the top executive are females, and we have also around 37% in the middle management are females. So we are trying our best to hit the right balance in the manpower of MBK. So with that, I would let's say wrap up my journey, because it's full of details actually, and I would like to give the time for the others as well. But again, I think we are in a place, or those values actually we need to contribute for the community as well as to our organization, and to be a good example for our kids. Because my dream is to be a good father example for my daughters, because at the end they are going to continue the journey. And back to you, Qutayba.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad. Your words are very inspiring, especially when you're talking about the private sector and the difference between the private and the government sector. We face this, a lot of us in this community right now are facing this, especially when we shifted from one industry to another, or one sector to another. We'll get back to you on, especially on that. We have a question from one of the audience. Inshallah, once we finish from our next panelist, we'll go back and there's a question for you on that. Ladies and gentlemen, we really apologize for exceeding the time limit that's available for us, but we believe that this is all informative and will be beneficial for you. So if you allow us to give us a few extra minutes, we'll be concluding with our third panelist, and we'll answer a few questions before we wrap up and conclude. So with that, I would like to ask our third panelist, Mr. Santiago, can you share with us your success story, or failure if you wish, and then we'll move on and have a few questions on that. Mr. Santiago, please.
Sorry, thank you very much to you, Qutayba, and to KOC, the Harvard Club of Kuwait. It's an honor to be in such distinguished company, and I, of course, have the unenviable position of following so many wonderful and thoughtful colleagues. You know, when I was trying to give this a little bit of thought, and believe it or not, I don't think that much about my life. I just sort of live it. But I was trying to give it a little bit of thought, and as I was thinking about my life journey, I was really struck by how fortunate I've been, and how much of that journey has been shaped by luck, essentially. And some of it has been good fortune, some of it has been challenges, but it's all been luck. And how it's all shaped me is through the perspective and interpretation that you then attach to the circumstances that arise in your life. And one thing I've realized over time is that life has this amazing ability to correct itself. And you just need to realize eventually that it is a correction. So I'm lucky in so many ways. I was lucky to have been an immigrant. I was born in one country, Argentina, but I was raised in another, in the United States. So I didn't get to know my birth country. I never really lived in it physically, though I got to know it through my family. And I got to know the country that I was raised in, that was the United States, and I wouldn't have known it otherwise. So I was quite lucky to be bicultural and to experience that kind of multi-dimensional view and perspective that living in different cultures at once gives you, that openness to other cultures, and that laid the foundation for a lot of the rest of my life. I was lucky then to have been the first in my family to go to university and to become a lawyer. But then that also meant that as I was progressing academically, because my family couldn't necessarily relate to it, and of course it was in a language that they didn't master, that meant that a lot of my homework as a child and as a young adult I was doing alone. But that taught me resilience, and that taught me self-reliance, and that gave me an intense focus on academic success as being a key to progressing in this new world. I was lucky again to have attended these wonderful schools, Amherst and Sciences Po and NYU, but I didn't follow any family traditions. There was no legacy to carry on at these schools, so I had little guidance. It was an unknown world. But then that made me more independent. And that made me feel that I had earned whatever success that I had achieved at these institutions. I was lucky to have graduated finally in 2001 in New York City. And I was challenged by looking for my first job out of law school after September 11th hit in New York City, which of course had a tremendous impact on the market, froze everything. I applied to 300 firms and only one accepted me. But I was very lucky because that firm was the exact perfect firm for me. It was a small firm. I was the only first-year associate. The only thing that they did was international work, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And so I had a lot more responsibility than someone at my age and my level would have had, and it was a fantastic learning experience. And then as I went on and tried so many different things after that, I was lucky to have gone through these challenges and these surprises as I tried these new things. I moved to Paris. I lived there. I became an entrepreneur. Neither of those periods was as long as or as permanent as I thought they would be. So those were surprises, and somewhere in there, they were painful in a way. They were surprising and disappointing. Again, these corrections that I didn't realize were such until later on. But ultimately, what happened is that it broadened my horizons by shifting, question the assumptions and conclusions that I had been forming about my life up till then, the things that I thought were going to happen. And of course, so many of them did, but so many of them did not. And it was a bit like going to the library and you're looking for a book and you know exactly what book that you want, but it turns out that the book that you need was the one that was next to it on the shelf. So I was then lucky after that to return to private practice and just work in New York, but luckier still to receive a call out of the blue asking me to go to Kuwait for a month. And that month, of course, I became much longer, became about 14 years now. That was a long time ago. So this led, this was unknown. I didn't really know the region that well. I had never been to the Middle East. I didn't know what to expect. I had no friends or family here. But it was lucky, even though at the same time it created even more distance between me and my family who remained in the US. But this led to a fantastic career at Al Ghanim within a wonderful country where I met my wife. We created a family of our own. I've been lucky to witness some of the most unbelievable changes within the Middle East from the vantage point of one of the most dynamic companies in the region, surrounded by incredible colleagues with different life experiences and other non-stop learning opportunities for me, again, giving me a new perspective and broadening my horizons further. And then I was lucky to have attended Harvard Business School, which was the culmination of all of these experiences and all of these thought processes. But it was challenging and it was intimidating because I was one of the only lawyers there. And so I thought, well, you know, what am I doing here? But Harvard is a place for learning not just through what you absorb from your professors, but also from your classmates and ultimately from yourself. So this meant that in some ways I learned more than anyone else. And sometimes I was positioned to provide insights that non-lawyers didn't have. Again, very lucky. So looking ahead, I can only guess at what awaits. I have no idea. But I believe that it will again be shaped by fortune, and that ultimately I'll see myself again as having been lucky, even if it takes time to understand why and how. And finally, of course, I'm lucky to be here today amongst all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you again, Mr. Santiago. That is really inspiring, and really opens the opportunities for people to explore other ventures and seek different opportunities. I know, I apologize again that we exceeded the time. I'll just take maybe one or two questions, depending on, keep it very short, brief, and then we'll wrap up and conclude the session. I have a question from one of the audience, and it's for Mr. Imad. It says, Mr. Imad, it seems that you are still challenging yourself to continue with the shift from private sector to from the public sector to the private sector long after the shift. What keeps you going? Can we just have a brief 1 minute on that?
Sure, Nir. Thank you for the question, first of all. And well, actually, I'm not challenging. Yeah, if you don't keep challenging yourself, actually you don't develop yourself. So first of all, what makes me going on is the love of this. When you love your organization, you become a real soldier for that organization. And then I do believe that what keeps me doing on and on whatever I'm doing now is to help, first of all, MBK to have and develop more leaders, actually, which we also produce those leaders to the local market among Kuwaitis. And if you just have a quick look on the banking sector, at least several CEOs from MBK, several deputy CEOs from MBK, and the counter is keep continuing. So doing that, I'm really feel fortunate to serve MBK, because MBK believed in me, actually. They sent me to Harvard. They grant me the executive MBA. So this is what keeps me always serving MBK.
Thank you, Mr. Imad. I have just one more question, and I'll direct it to Mr. Lucero. It's one of the audience is asking a question. What are the blessings of COVID-19 to our industries? So being in the industry of Al-Ghanim, it has so many companies within it. How did COVID-19 help Al-Ghanim in terms of management and moving the business and keeping the jobs running? Can we just have a short answer from your side, please?
Sorry, thank you for the question, first of all. I think as they say, every challenge is an opportunity. And I think that's been no less true for Al-Ghanim, like so many other organizations. We, of course, have faced challenges like everyone else. But I think that for us, it was an opportunity to be innovative and to be creative. With many of our processes, with many of our initiatives that you look at perhaps in a different way, from a different perspective, because the circumstances have changed. And that unleashed some potential that perhaps would not have been had it not been for the circumstances.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. Just summarizing the event, what we've captured so far is that learning is a major factor for your journey. The balancing of your life and work is needed. Performance is the driver, whether you are in the public sector or the private sector. You need to build your brand name. You have to build the trust and the network. Failure is an indicator of moving towards success, so it's not a drawback, it's an advantage. Women leaders in Kuwait are moving up the ladder, and we're seeing that a lot in the private sector. Luck and good fortune also helps in your journey and success. So that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the findings of this session. I'd like to take a moment to thank all our panelists, and to be honest, a hand of applause to all of them. Unfortunately, it's virtually, so I would appreciate that. Thank you very much, Nadia. Thank you very much, Mr. Imad. Thank you very much, Mr. Santiago. Your input and your stories really moved us and thrived our people to move ahead and follow their dreams. Thank you again. Mr. Abdullah, if you'd like to take over.
Yes, sure. Hello again, and thank you, Mr. Qutayba, for professionally handling the panel session today, and as well for our guest panelists. And finally, it's been a pleasure for KOC to have you all with us today, and we hope to see you in the future events. It was a pleasure. This is, as Mr. Badr has officially announced, this is the first but not the last annual Harvard meeting that we're going to be having, and we hope to see you next year. Thank you all very much.
قواكم الله مشكورين.